in 2008.
Morning, y'all. I was feeling a little last night. I got down.
Failures. It's because of this that the
First
story of
off,
Evergrande's problem.
what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Ghostface Gaming, aka John Tyler, candidate for a city council seat at large. We're back at it with Mafia 3, finishing the story. I really want to get back to Destiny 2. I'm hoping my clan hasn't kicked me out. But yeah, I fell asleep last night, and
How you doing, man?
yeah, I fell asleep last night because took some medication. I was feeling a little under the weather. I got a forum today at the I got a forum. Oh
He's
shit!
here! Hey, over here! Shit. The last day of miserable life. Get out of here. Let me see your inside. Should've kept your head down.
Shit!
Circle round him.
That was almost tragic.
Son of a bitch is going down. Gotta reload. No. Get out of here.
So I got to get my life together for that.
Run. Get out of here. Grab some cover. Out of ammo. Gotta reload. No. Oh God. Oh. I'll flush him out.
So yeah,
Running for cover.
got to kind of get my life together. Back to what I was listening to though.
Problems actually started more than a year ago in August of 2020. Property is never owned in China. It is leased from the government for a set amount of time, most commonly 70 years. These land leases are then purchased by property developers like Evergrande. The property developers will then design apartment buildings and pre-sell units they designed to regular investors who will put down a deposit and wait for the buildings to actually be finished. The developer can then take this money and use it as a down payment to borrow even more money to either buy up more land leases or to use on actual construction of buildings on that land. This system works very well for rapid expansion, and it is in theory a win-win for everybody. Evergrande and the other developers were able to buy up more 70-year leases and build more houses. Regular investors were able to get access to properties that were far cheaper than the existing apartments for sale in China, and the banks and non-bank lenders were able to give money to an institution that was offering good returns on a secured line of credit. Most of these lenders figured that in the extremely unlikely scenario that a company like Evergrande defaulted on its debts, they could just yoink all that property that they had on their books and easily cover for all these loans. Now, Evergrande had seen that properties in China were appreciating at a rate of about 10 to 15% per year, so they wanted to push this limit to the extreme. They wanted to borrow more money, buy up more land rights, resell more apartments, all in an attempt to grow as fast as possible. This did work well, and the company was highly profitable. It always had more assets than liabilities, and continually gave consistent returns to both equity and debt investors. But all good things must come to an end. And that brings us back to August of 2020, when the Chinese government introduced new laws to control the amount of debt that developers could take on, and also how the money that companies like Evergrande were getting from pre-sales could be used. This was a big problem because it radically altered the high-growth business model that the company
As
had
the
become
controller
reliant
dies.
on. The company basically needed a constant stream
I
of
knew that was
new money
gonna happen.
coming in from property buyers to keep the whole operation running, but it did have a backup plan. If this money ever slowed down, the developer could just lower the prices on their pre-sales to attract more buyers and prop up the system again. Sure, they wouldn't make as much profit,
Hold on,
but
y'all.
it's
My
better
controller
than
died.
nothing. In a
I should've
worst-case
known better.
scenario, the company just kept certain properties on their books as real estate assets. This meant that they could borrow even more against the value of these finished properties and never need to realize a loss by selling a property for more than it cost to build. This was not a bad strategy, considering property price growth in China meant that the company only ever needed to hold on to these properties for a few months at most, before market forces made them profitable to sell again. However, these new regulations meant that the company was forced to hold on to more and more existing properties while also needing to sell off their new developments at increasingly steep discounts to keep the money flowing in. This caused two problems. For starters, it undermined all the holdings that they had to offset their liabilities.
We're gonna get to
I
this
said at the beginning of this
today,
video
y'all.
that the company had more assets than
Now,
it did in liabilities.
give me a second to get
That
my
is
there we
technically
go.
true, but only if you accept that hundreds of billions of dollars worth of
Alright.
residential real estate holdings are worth as
One
much as the
most.
company says it is. Even if we ignore the propensity of Chinese companies to massage their fingers a bit, this is an alarming number because these assets are not liquid, which leads us to the next problem.
So I'm supposed to do that down here.
How clumsy of me.
I'm Melanie. I'm a fun, caring, and goofy person. The doctor said I had a brain tumor, and it was scary, but you can't be sad.
These kids, they don't deserve to have to go through this. My beautiful little redheaded girl has cancer. You don't know what's going to happen.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital works day after day to find cures and save the lives of children with cancer and other life-threatening diseases. Please become a St. Jude Partner in Hope for only $19 a month.
I hope there's a cure because all the children here deserve to have a life.
Families never receive a bill from St. Jude for treatment, travel, housing, or food because all the family should worry about is helping their child live.
I was just so scared. I think the reality of what was happening within our family just hit me. Her doctor came in and she just said, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We're here to help her.
You can join our mission by becoming a partner in hope. When you join with your credit or debit card, we'll send you this St. Jude t-shirt.
I think it's the most worthwhile place to put your money when it comes to childhood cancer. The Partners in Hope, they mean everything because I'm just so grateful to have her.
Hope is when you never ever give back.
Become a partner in hope today.
I got this. They're coming.
Well, the new regulations have made it harder for the company to borrow money to complete the projects it was working on. This has meant that the company has to sell more pre-sales to fund
What the
existing projects.
fuck? Like, I hit the dispatch, but obviously that shit don't work.
The questions raised about the true value of the company's real estate holdings has meant that the company has had to seek financing from not just one or two banks like most companies, but from over 128 different banks and hundreds of other non-bank lenders. This started to raise alarm bells with individual property investors who were waiting for their homes to be finished. Potential investors were starting to see these massive real estate development projects that used to sell out within a matter of hours were now being discounted over and over again to try and attract buyers. Even if their overall attitude towards the real estate market was bullish, it only made sense to sit back and see if they could snag themselves a bigger discount. This closed the faucet on the cash injector that kept everything going, causing bigger discounts and bigger question marks over how much the company's inventory was actually worth. Now, the company is in a situation where it lacks the funds it needs to pay for day-to-day operations beyond the next few weeks. Of course, it could sell off these existing real estate assets as a last-ditch attempt to free up some cash flow, but it would now be at a massive discount given the bad press and the fact that they wouldn't really have to negotiate too hard on price. That leads us on to how bad this could get. The If the government did not intervene at all, the company would go into liquidation. The 1.5 million people that have paid deposits on homes that have not yet been built would lose that money, and the properties on the company's books would be sold off as quickly as possible, flooding the market with properties for sale. Even in a country as hungry for real estate as China, this would inevitably drive down prices. It would simultaneously put more eyes on the other property development companies who would inevitably be in a similar situation. If property prices fall, then their inventories are going to be worth less too, meaning they will have less assets to secure loans against, which means more difficulty completing projects, which means more trouble paying off loans, which means more liquidations. If you replace the words Chinese apartments with mortgage-backed securities, it is easy to see why people are calling this a Lehman moment. Which leaves just one final question. Will this impact markets in the West? The global financial crisis really spread from the US to Europe. China is the second largest economy in the world, so it's not unreasonable to be a little concerned with the same thing happening here, right? Well, yeah, we should all be cautious of what this could mean, but it wouldn't be overly worried just yet. China's markets are by design very closed off to the outside world, which means that they are much less interconnected with the American markets than, say, American markets are with European markets. What's more is that it's hard to believe that the Chinese government would let it get quite that bad. The strength and unfaltering growth of the economy has been the linchpin of the current government. It now means that they would not only have to deal with an economic catastrophe, but also widespread civil unrest as well. As I said, this is a developing situation, so your guess about what comes next is just about as good as mine. They are facing. Now, if you want to learn something a little bit more lighthearted, then go watch my video on why jellyfish have secretly been used as a global reserve currency for the past few decades. These videos are made possible by my amazing channel members and Patreon supporters. If you enjoy these videos, please consider supporting the channel directly so that everybody can keep
If you work a 9 to 5 and you want capital, check this out. Hey, how much money did you make last week? $3,000. What about the week before? $5,000. What about the week before that? $4,000. How much money did you make last week? Last week, what about the week before that? 42. AJ, how much money did you make last week? $5,000. What about the week before? Didn't you used to run a mattress store before this? Yeah. How much would you net per month at your mattress store? Like 10. Maybe 10, maybe 11. Yeah. So you're doing around 5 a week now, 5K a week? Yeah, 5, 6. Every single one of my students that you see here committed to the process and learned this one high demand skill. And sure, it took some work, but not as much as
control
you
keep
might
going
think.
out. Y'all gotta
Most
forgive
of
me.
them had full-time jobs they did before when they first started and could commit only like 60 minutes a day to learning this high demand skill. So if you're willing to commit to the process and spend just 60 minutes, bare minimum, 60 minutes a day learning, I've put together a super short but very detailed free training session that you can attend by clicking on this link, where I'm going to dive deep into this new high demand skill that Nate, AJ, and Corey have all followed to make life-changing money, quit their 9 to 5, and earn a full-time living online. And if you think this is some scam or something weird like that, we've had literally hundreds of students go through this program and make enough money to quit their 9 to 5. Now, the most important thing that I can tell you to do right now is just to click on this link in this ad, because the reason why this works so well right now is because very few people actually know about it. And if you keep ignoring ads like this while everyone else clicks on them and attends the free training and learns what I'm about to show you, they'll be making all the money that you missed out on simply because you didn't click on this ad and discover the one high demand skill that could help you replace your full-time income quickly. So if you're skeptical, okay, just swallow it for a second. Click on this ad and attend the free training, and I'm going to show you this high demand skill that myself and hundreds of people are using to make full-time income online. And again, it doesn't matter if you don't have a lot of money. You don't need a lot of money. It doesn't matter if you don't have a lot of experience. You don't necessarily need a lot of experience. It doesn't matter if you don't have a lot of time. You don't even need a lot of time to make this work for you. So click on this ad and let's get started.
matter of time to
This is a humble jellyfish, a slimy floaty blob of not much. But this ocean-going jello can teach us a lot about how money works, and since that's why I'm here, let me explain. You see, zoos and aquariums around the world display all sorts of fancy creatures for a whole bunch of reasons. They offer scientists a controlled environment to study animals, breeding programs for species on the edge of extinction, and of course, they offer a fun day for people who just want to look at animals. That last part is especially important for these zoos because even the ones that are not run for profit need those visitor dollars to pay for the first two functions. Now, the best way to achieve all of these three things is to have a diverse selection of animals. Back in the day, this was pretty easy. Zoos became popular in the 19th century as royal menageries, or exotic animal shelters, were made available to the public for a modest admission. This is why a lot of zoos around Europe are still called royal zoos to this day. The success of these early establishments led to for-profit zoos springing up all over Europe and America to get a slice of this profitable little pastime. Kitting out the zoo with animals was merely a matter of finding an exotic animal dealer and placing an order. The animals were just a business asset to bring in money, no different from the gift shop or the land the zoo was on. Unfortunately for our would-be zookeepers, America passed the Endangered Species and Wildlife Act in 1973, which expressly forbid the sale or trade of wild animals for money. Around this same time period, most other countries followed suit with similar laws. This means that zoos looking to fill out their enclosures could no longer just pay to win. Of course, for existing zoos, this wasn't a major issue. Animals are great because they have an inbuilt copy and paste function. But this law did massively slow down the opening of any new parks, especially those that were to be run for profit. Even still, the existing parks did need to set up a system of trade to ensure that they got a fair chance at achieving these three main goals. So, they had to figure out a system of exchange that didn't involve money. Now, there were two different approaches taken to this. Regular zoos from around the world established the most simple form of exchanging goods and services, the don't be a dick approach. Basically, zoos will openly trade their animals for nothing but good karma amongst other zoos to ensure that healthy populations are maintained, research can be conducted, breeding programs are facilitated, and of course, tickets sold. This is the medium of exchange that served early humanity before more sophisticated systems took hold. It's a common misconception that bartering, as in trading one goat for 10 bales of corn, was the standard before currencies came along. And in reality, there is actually no historic evidence of bartering being used as a widespread medium of exchange in any culture at any point in history. Before currencies, people simply tended to exist in small communal groups that simply shared stuff equitably amongst themselves, just the same as you would with your friends and family, which was entirely what these early groups were made up of. Of course, as soon as these groups got large enough that not everybody knew everybody else, like say early cities, this honor system quickly broke down. That is why, in many ways, the adoption of currencies is just as vital to human development as agriculture, the wheel, and domesticated animals. Now, speaking of domesticated animals, you might be asking, this is great, but what does this have to do with jellyfish economics? Well, you see, while the zoos were content to adopt this very easy breezy system of good karma, their aquatic counterparts, the aquariums, decided to take a more capitalistic approach. Now, they couldn't trade the animals for money or anything else of value, because, of course, that would break the various laws around the world and encourage people to hunt live animals for profit. So, instead, they traded animals for animals. Now, you might say, well, isn't that just bartering? And you would be right. But there is one key difference. Aquariums have a reserve currency, the jellyfish. The jellyfish surprisingly makes a good currency for a few good reasons. For starters, their individual value is pretty low. They are pretty much the least valuable thing on display in most aquariums, which is good because you can't divide marine life into pennies and dimes like you can a dollar, because, well, that's fish. So, jellyfish work well because anything else on display is going to be some multiple of a jellyfish. They are also relatively easy and cheap to keep, and their populations remain stable year-round, which means that you don't have to worry about hyperinflation caused by reckless jellyfish printing. In many ways, these are all the same reasons that gold was such a popular medium of exchange around the world before modern fiat currency rose to prominence in the mid-20th century. Now, interestingly enough, just because jellyfish have these traits does not mean they are totally immune from inflation, and seasonal spikes have seen the value of these slimy poker chips decline. But overall, it gets the job done, which is really the big takeaway here. Now, I'm sure you want to know the exchange rate between a jellyfish and the US dollar currency pair. And surprisingly enough, if we use the secondary exchange rate between a jellyfish and a fish you can buy to eat, we will find that this currency pair is almost at parity. But don't think that you can get rich scooping these little creatures out of the water. Some of them will sting you, and their value depends a lot on you individually being a reliable trading partner for marine animals other than just jellyfish. Even if you did manage to pull it off, all you'd be able to trade it for is a penguin or something, which is cool, but kind of hard to look after. In reality, most trades between aquariums will be a direct swap of one animal for another, but being able to throw in a few extra jellyfish on the side smooths out the transaction enough to ensure that these venues can continue to trade efficiently and complete their core responsibilities. Fortunately, for now at least, people haven't started speculating on the jellyfish market, but if you happen to dive into this market and end up making a lot of money in the process, be sure to follow our step-by-step guide on how not to lose your newfound fortune, because, that would sting. And while you're at it, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to keep on learning how money works.
Somebody call the cops.
नहीं चाहती कि हमारे गांव की लड़कियां इस रश्मि की तरह बने। लड़के वैसे कमजोर। हार जीत तो परिणाम है। कोशिश हमारा काम है।
It costs 12 cents to print a $100 bill, and the Federal Reserve Bank can print as many $100 bills as they want. They can create it out of thin air. Sears used to be the biggest company in the world. Nobody ever thought that Sears was going to fail. For the average millennial, their biggest liability, biggest expense. If you start a YouTube channel to make money, you're doing it wrong.
I think it's about 1 in every 3 Americans cannot afford $1,000 expense right now. That is a new stat that just came out. I believe it's CNBC. $15 trillion in consumer debt right now in America. So collectively, all Americans have around $15 trillion in consumer.
Quarter 2 of 2021. Actually, let's talk back to 2020. Yeah, I cut you off right there, but this is an interesting point. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, we saw the biggest credit card pay down in the history of America. A lot of Americans were sitting at home because of the pandemic. They were getting checks in the mail, whether it's unemployment or stimulus checks. Some of them were also working, and so they were working and getting a stimulus check. But we had no expenses. You had mortgage forbearance, you had student loan forbearance, you weren't going out to eat, you weren't going on vacation. People were just sitting at home, they weren't shopping. And so people had so much extra cash. We saw the biggest credit card pay down in the history of the American economy.
I also believe we saw so many people putting more money into savings too than just about
savings.
any
Investments blew up.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I mean, it was like magical. It pulled on my heartstrings. I was so happy.
We were like, finally!
It was amazing. And then came 2021, second quarter of 2021. Yeah, it was the biggest credit card boom.
Okay, so next item on the agenda, Luke. Forecast says you're about to have sun tomorrow. I'm going to need you to perform an experiment for me.
You mean I get to leave the writer dungeon?
Not only are you getting out of the writer's dungeon, I'm actually going to have to ship you a bunch of beer to drink as a part of the experiment. Luke, you okay? Honestly, if you're not comfortable with it, that's totally fine. I'm sure one of the other researchers would be more than happy.
No. I can be convinced.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Food Theory, the show that not only ruins your childhoods, we also ruin a perfectly good beer. The difference, though, here is that we actually try to repair the damage we caused to the beer. Not so much. Friends, summer's winding down, and that means that it's suddenly your last chance to crack open a cold one on a deserted beach to pretend like you're in a Corona beer commercial. But for as idyllic as those commercials make it seem, what they conveniently fail to mention is that drinking on a sunny tropical beach is probably the...
Tony DeRazio just kissed the pavement outside the Royal Hotel. Downtown is ours. Cabal Construction and the sham work sites, the Imperial, and all the limp dicks who owe the mob money, we own it all.
We on the road to making a whole hell of a lot of money together, brother. We stick together in this, and we'll change the face of the holler for the better.
I'm glad to hear we got Marcano's cocksuckers on the run, and I'm willing to look past the fact that you didn't call me about this action, if you just give me the turf altogether.
This is all news to me, but if you still want to send it my way, I'll take it.
Ain't a territory in this city I can't control.
Anytime you want to make a call, I'm good with that.
Wait till they see the Irish rolling up the streets.
Give me the keys to the kingdom, partner.
Can't go wrong here, brother, as long as you lean my way.
The Haitians will run this part of the city.
Look at you staying true to the holler. Impact of this kind of change is gonna be felt across the city.
You're just keeping me around here to look pretty, because right now, I'm struggling to find one goddamn reason to even be here.
Better luck next time, I guess.
All right, that's it. We're done for now.
Police are intensifying their search for the criminal believed to be responsible for the massacre at the Royal Hotel. The suspect is described as 6 feet 3 inches and is believed.
They're saying you threw Tony off the roof of the Royal?
Actually, it was through his penthouse window.
You always had a flair for the dramatic.
Tony's legend. Last couple pages are pretty interesting.
Any idea what US 5CJ means? Wait a minute. Holy shit. Why is Lou willing to comp 10 grand a month at a brothel and the same at a drug den?
Based on what Greco told me and Scaletta, Marcano's laying out a bunch of money to get gambling legalized. If that's what you're after, who better to have in your pocket?
Then a judge on the 5th Circuit Court of Appeals, US 5CJ.
Exactly.
There could be over 20 judges on that bench. Could be any one of them.
The kind of man we're talking about isn't used to people getting into his business. I start visiting the places listed in that ledger, he'll panic and go to Lou for help.
And that's when we'll find out who he is.
Keep that wiretap running.
Never turn it off.
Hello. Yeah. Well, I ain't took that Dayquil yet. I'll probably take that when I get ready to leave the house. Huh? Yeah. Yeah, I ain't gonna take it now. I feel okay now, but like I said, I take it when I get ready to leave the house.
How about sending some new deals to Delray Hollow?
Just gonna take a squirt? I'll get her right to you.
Probably about 11:30, 12. It go down to Office Depot. Huh?
That's a big help.
Yeah, you said that building get front.
Prominent local businessman Anthony D'Orazio was murdered today when an unknown suspect stormed his residence at the Royal Hotel. Witnesses at the scene saw D'Orazio fall from the window of his penthouse apartment.
I looked up and there was a man falling from the top of the building.
Police have declined to say whether or not they have any leads or a name for the suspect in the case.
Dang, something. Right.
I don't ever come straight to the car because I did I had to stop, like I started getting nauseous this morning. I guess I'm having all the medicine in my system, but not having no food in my stomach.
Yeah.
And I really did a whole lot yesterday. I really did. A whole lot. So, letting the work on. And started with me. So, I'm going to reach. Well, then I pretty much, like the last 30 minutes of the ride, I was so, like, really, like, having a hard time holding my eyes open, like, oh, God. I can use all my data, because it started off on Saturday, but the way I use data, like, when I'm coming to work, by this Saturday, I be use it all. And that's a long month to go.
With no damn data.
And I'm thinking about boosting it up to 30, but that only going to be on me. It's only what it is. Man, that's commercial house. And nobody couldn't do it, was it?
Maybe the guy didn't leave a tip for housekeeping? I'm sorry. I shouldn't joke
There's
about
some more weird ass
Supposed to be like 85 today.
If it bleeds, it bleeds. And with you out there doing what you're doing, can't prove business fast enough.
You have some
I
fun.
like to.
I don't know. I ain't been outside yet to smell the air.
Probably a safe bet that Lou funnels all his VIP.
Well, you know, I'm close to the water.
The fuck, Harry's the man you want to see. He's got it all covered. Hookers on the corner, porno shoots, and if you want to be on your sickest fantasies.
Like yesterday.
I can see the headlines now.
Like literally yesterday, I started feeling real bad at work. About 7:30, I walked off that damn line. Around the time I said, "Man, fuck this place," I walked off. And I went outside and I sneezed about 15 times, boy.
The fella's running horse for Handsome Harry will know what he's up to.
Yes. Like I went outside and sneezed like 15 times. Literally. Till my head was hurting.
Like the 20-something thousand. It's always down to like 4,000. Hello? This monkey get anything. I don't know what you're going to be doing because I don't know how to do that much. supposed to be doing. You only got 2 people working in, and that put you only got 137 pieces of documents in. Well, what the? I don't know. Trying to get that focus. I didn't want to get a week off from work too bad. Jesus. I never know that my gosh, to do that, and I don't know why they.
Yeah, that's primarily why I sent you that too. For gas. I spent all the
which clearly I know you are. It's about to get real.
yeah.
We all going to keep playing around. And I'm noticing that a lot of these stores, man, they really restocking shit.
They're not.
Shit coming in.
Ain't nothing, cuz people think it's a game. That damn shipment, when I said you can cancel Christmas, I meant that more than just presents. You get what I'm saying? I was like, man, when I saw it, I actually watched it. And I said, man, what the hell? Oh, hell no, boy. That's goods, food, product, clothing. Them kind of shipping tankers. Oh, shit. It about to be one sad Christmas right here. People ain't gonna realize, because in America, we be the last to know in certain ways because we have so much in excess. Bro, we ain't had boneless chicken meat in 2 months. I noticed that during COVID when we didn't have beef stew, pot roast, and shit like that. I said, oh man, they trying to put a crunch on the food market. That's how you control the population. I said that last year.
We see, you gotta go ahead and get it now. Whenever you can get for Christmas, you gotta go ahead and get it now. You can always, you can always fridge on here in your country. You gotta go ahead and get it.
Yep.
Whatever you see, go ahead and get it. Don't wait around.
I'm telling you now, because it's gonna be one sad Christmas. Nope.
So, like, y'all, it's politics, y'all better stop. Because it might be just one wrong, might be get nasty for me.
You want a date yet? I can make you feel good.
That's what I'm saying. This is a real fish at 116. Oh my God, my car's so dirty. My God, take my car with that dirty. It needs to be clean. But you know, like this, the stain permanently, that's how dirty it is.
He's got a real gun.
And my car needs to be like wash. Going to the car wash is gonna do it.
Yeah, I see it starting to get them little dirty specks on it. I noticed that last night.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm mad. All the pita pits are closed. All of them closed. Cause I could go by there and get me a cheese and potato soup.
You ain't lying. But ain't no one's coming from Doc Gaston. At least no one would have a
I don't know what kind of soups East Bay got going on. Okay, baby. Okay, baby. I love you, baby. I love you, baby. Okay. Control over that bullshit. Oh, no, this thing should be charged enough for me to get some kind of action. So I'll pause real quick. Because I need to charge my phone before I leave the house. It is 11. I need to call my job, make sure they know I'm not coming in today. That from Liz. Alright, we got some kind of like thing. Quick roll up. I'm gonna call my job. See what kind of crap they give me. Hello, Uncle. Who's the manager on duty right now? Who is? Can I speak to him real quick, please? This is Jonathan. All right. Hey Scott, this is Jonathan. I was just making sure that you knew that I was supposed to be off today. I know Todd said he was gonna make a note of it. I didn't see the schedule last night, but this is my last forum at the Kroger Center at 5:30 today. So I just wanted to be sure that you knew that. Okay, thank you, sir. All right, thank you. I got to get rid of this cough before I go. I might have should have took some of that cough syrup with me, but I left it with the wife. All right, so we got that out the way. But I'm gonna leave here about 12:30. I got some stuff I need to pick up. Okay, making sure I still have my banner and stuff. Wasted so much good battery life. Oh my God, see what I'm saying? It's connected, but it don't want to work now. Oh, and there she goes. Okay, let me try this again, y'all, and I'll be back in a whole second.